2 words about the Bushmen of Kalahari, which is a desert in Namibia and Botswana of Southern Africa. The Bushmen are hunting inhabitants. They face numerous conflicts regarding mates, food, land, etc. Yet, when a dispute arises, in spite of the fact that they are very violent, before they have recourse to weapons, their ethical beliefs or their philosophical beliefs exhort them to turn to persons they trust so as they hear both parties and help them to solve their dispute. This is a first meeting of mediation. If the situation worsens, some of them hide the weapons of the opponents, while as the dispute becomes sharper more and more persons gather, men and women sit down and speak non-stop. Mainly the adversaries, of course, speak. And this decompresses all the parties participating. Remember venting in modern mediation. They express their bitterness, their sorrows, offenses and disappointments. And we should not forget that in small communities, the problem of one of their members is usually a problem of all the community. The process may last for 2 or even more consecutive days. It contains elements both of mediation and conciliation. Another process I would like to mention, and I would like to stick on this because it is my personal attitude towards it. It concerns Hawaiians in the Polynesian Islands. The Hawaiians have a strong spiritual conviction that all disputes are due to negative emotions such as acrimony, resentment, jealousy, etc. The particular system they have to solve their dispute is called Ho'oponopono, according to which, by appeasing and calming the emotions and by acknowledging his own responsibility, one detoxifies from acrimony, jealousy, and envy, and ends to acknowledge the rights and needs of the others. Today, in mediation, this is a must. If one of the parties acknowledges, if the mediator brings the parties to acknowledge the needs and the rights of the other, we all know that this is a very important moment. Now, I will give you the specific words composing a kind of chant followed by the Hawaiians, which is, I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. These 4 sentences include all the philosophy of the word. And Vikram, if you are interested, you can find on YouTube many articles and chants about Ho'oponopono, which are relaxing and very nice. The version I like the most is the Indian one. Not to make a compliment to you, but it is the Indian one. Okay, I do not speak about the Abkhazian of Georgia.
Why? You're not going to speak. You will. We have enough time now. There's no problem time, and it's going as a separate part, so not a problem at all. You have to understand, tell you what happened there was that his was the last session. So he said, I will take so much time. I said, not a problem. Yours is the last session. So you can take that much time. So he had taken that much time from me. He had said,
you should first. I would not be offended, you know.
Well, No, I'll tell you this. Actually, the schedule that I made, your session was put as the second session, and it was, I said, the first speaker. So that half an hour was the slot put on that. But part 2 is always an option. There's no problem at all.
Okay, so about the Abkhazians of Georgia. They are natives living in the Caucasus Mountains of Georgia, and they used since ever mediation very broadly. It was conducted by an aged person who was respected by the community. This is common to all the communities. Women were not prevented from being mediators, and possibly this is the only place where women could be mediators, as it is the case also in Creta. In Creta, we have an old lady which is said to have done decades of many mediations. I had not the opportunity to speak about what they call in Creta the love agreements. At the end of a dispute, in the past, not now, not anymore, an agreement was signed by the parties that they will not continue the vendetta. And in the archives of a notary, they were found some 100 of such agreements, which he used to call love agreements. You said about big party. It seems that this was something happening often, because also in Abkhazia, after the dispute, pardon me, yes. No, I'll speak about something else. In Abkhazia, when the dispute was terminated, marriages between members of the two disputing families, but also baptism and adoptions of children of one of the families by the other took place, which had as a result that the links between the two former adversary families were strengthened by creating family relations between them. Something special is that one of the rivals used to do sometimes. He slept in the house of his opponent and hanged on the breast of his wife and his mother as an act showing his wish to end the dispute. In China, the philosophy of Confucius prevailed. He advocated that the universal harmony should not be disturbed by disputes. Thus, China adopted mediation very early for the resolution of disputes and the conservation of harmonious relations between the citizens. As of the period of the Western Zhou dynasty, either 2000 years before Christ, in all the public authorities, there was a place for a mediator. Due to the emphasis to harmony, any rivalry being against its essence, the Chinese mediator had high ambition for a long period of time. It has been written about Chinese mediators that Chinese mediation has as goal not only the solution of a dispute, but also the prevention of disputes. It is a continuous process where the mediator is constantly alert in respect to any potential threat against harmony, even when harmony is already established. The mission of Chinese mediators is more than to help the parties to solve a dispute. Their duty consists of the education of people to maintain a long-lasting, better relationship so as harmony be secured constantly and as much as possible. Is this not the goal of mediation today also? Now, let us go to the Ancient Testament. In the Ancient Testament, there is a sentence saying, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. This sentence has been, this is the lex talionis in Latin, and many scholars have demonstrated that the real meaning of this sentence is that the punishment should be proportional to the punishable act. In no way did this rule authorize revenge. What does this mean? That parties should be treated in the same way. For instance, if there was a theft, there could not be a sentence of 25 years of jail, for instance. Another sentence in the teaching of Jesus Christ is, do love your neighbor as yourself. And also, if someone slaps you on the right cheek, turn the other cheek. Also, this sentence has been misinterpreted. Jesus Christ did not mean definitely that you must say inactive and don't react. On the contrary, he said that he meant that by turning the other cheek, you prevented the dispute to grow. And of course, you had the right to defend yourself by asking the authorities to prevent any other acts against you and to protect you. Now, okay, I had something about the Judaism. The Jewish tradition, which is based on the Torah and the Talmud, according to this tradition, the disputes were submitted for resolution before a court composed by 3 rabbis, which was called Beth Din. Before appearing in the Beth Din, strong recommendation was done to the opponents to solve their dispute by means of mediation, which in Hebrew is bitual, or by means of arbitration, which is called psara. In the Jewish tradition and in the Jewish law, compromise in respect to a dispute was highly appreciated. This was an additional incentive for the parties to have recourse to negotiation and mediation. The Christianity. The fundamental principles of Christianity are love and forgiveness. And I ask myself, if today in mediation, the mediator tries to bring the parties to a point where they are ready to forgive each other, and even better, to love each other, this is, of course, something very difficult, the mediation would have more chances to be successful. In the first letter of Apostle Paul to the Corinthians, there is a sentence saying, in the obscurity of older time, a desire would arise to replace armed combat by arbitration. This sentence undoubtedly suggests early knowledge by the Christians of ADR as an alternative to war. Evangelist Matthew speaks about forgiveness and peaceful reconciliation. Also, in many places of the Bible, reference is done to peaceful collaboration and living so as recourses to courts or violent resolution of dispute be avoided. Islam. I passed some passages because it is late, very late for you now, Vikram.
No, not a problem at all. Don't even worry about time. You've got enough time. Please take us through the entire presentation.
Thank you. So I go back.
Yeah.
The priest of the village often acted as mediator in disputes arising between his parishioners. The matters where the priest was involved exceeded, of course, his spiritual tasks and made him to handle matters which was of the competency of civil courts. Catholic Church used councils which were performing negotiations. Also, representatives of the Pope acted as mediators. Often, the Pope himself performed negotiation, the most important of which seems to be the one which the Pope Leo the Great did with Attila, who was sacking city after city across Europe, having as goal to conquer Rome. The Pope, being very skilled and efficient in negotiation, succeeded in convincing Attila to spare Ravenna. Attila accepted, although he knew, possibly at that moment he forgot, that the consequence was that this would make more difficult the conquest of Rome. According to the papal version, the meeting took place on horseback, while his two senatorial companions were replaced by St. Peter and Paul. Islam. From the beginning of Islam, the Prophet Muhammad promoted and applied himself arbitration called tahkim for the resolution of disputes. When Islam prevailed in a community, the local law had to be modified in order to include arbitration. The most important case where Muhammad acted as an arbitrator or as a mediator, the same, is one where he was successful in preventing a war in respect of the rebuilding of Kaaba, the small stone building in the yard of the great mosque of Mecca. This building houses the holy black stone, which is the goal of Islamic pilgrimage and the point towards which Muslims turn during their daily prayers. When the reconstruction of the Kaaba was finished, the chief of the various tribes were arguing about who would have the honor to carry the holy black stone in the newly restored building. 5 days later, they were not able to take a decision. A war seems to be close, so they invited Muhammad to mediate. Muhammad accepted, and he put the small stone on a small cloth, saying to the chief of each tribe to catch a part of the cloth and to carry it, all of them together, at the place where the stone should be put. When they arrived there, Muhammad himself unfolded the cloth and set the stone where it should be set. Sorry. Now let's have a look at the situation in the American continent when the first pioneers and colonists went there. The white pioneers and colonists considered the natives of America to be a fierce race, uncivilized and less intelligent than themselves, while often the contrary was true, as it is proven, among others, by the assertion of Benjamin Franklin that he had learned a lot of things by the American natives and their devotion to the peaceful living with the members of the same community, to the persuasion, the compromise, and the assent, which allowed him to acquire steel, of which he made good use later on as representative of the USA in France, and also as member of the Congress of the politicians who drafted the Constitution of the USA in 1787. Yet American tribes are tribes with the highest respect to the principles and traditions, such as the faith to the supreme power, their honesty, their courage, their respect to the elders and the truth, the solidarity, the protection of women, children, weak persons, and the adherence to duties. Their constitution is called Great Law of Peace. As I said before, the words caucus and POW, conference, are words of natives of America and strongly emphasize their custom to speak about the crucial matters and analyze them. This method existed in America before the European pioneers arrived there. The Dutch colony has well developed a system of dispute resolution between the members of the colony, which they called conciliation, but in fact, it was an arbitration mediation system, an ARB-MED system, an arbitration followed by conciliation. Swedish colony of Delaware used a similar method. Now, I would like, if you allow me, to come to the title I have given to the topic and say how and why and when philosophy and mediation can be interactive. Philosophy, if philosophy inspires the mediator, I do not speak about the parties because they are upset when they go to mediation, usually. But if the mediator is inspired by the principle of love, of forgiveness, of passions, of empathy, all what is the essential rules of the monotheistic religions, which are philosophical, because the practical aspect of the religions is the traditions, to go to church and so on. But the principles and the rules are philosophical. So if the mediation is inspired by this, and if he has himself done work with himself and he knows himself, he has done self-analysis and knows himself so as to be patient, to be impartial, to be well disposed vis-a-vis the parties, he can lead them first to an appeasement of their anger, and at the end lead them to a resolution of their dispute. Also, the rules I said before, the sentences which have been misinterpreted, eye against an eye, tooth against a tooth, if explained, not literally, but if the mediator has these principles in mind, then he can lead the conversation in a way such to make the parties understand that if they have been harmed, they have not the right to take justice into their hands. To make them understand also other principles of the three monotheistic religions, and not only, because Hinduism and Buddhism have very, very important principles. For instance, I refer, although I have still to study very much, about the sutras of Patanjali. So if a mediator has cultivated himself, he can apply these philosophical principles to the way he conducts the mediation and increase the chances of success. Another point is why, for the reasons I just said, how, in the way I just exposed, when he sees, when he notices that the conflict can be solved in a way, in a mild way, by bringing, if he notices that the persons in the mediation room can accept those principles. Because there are persons who say, oh, I believe to nothing. There are no principles. The only principle for me is to be well, to have what I want and finish. In such a case, it is more difficult for the mediator, if not impossible. And the other part of the title I gave to the topic is, what is the impact of philosophy on mediation? The impact of philosophy on mediation is that the mediator has a task to make the parties understand and that peaceful life and continuing good relations with the other members of the community is to the interest of everyone. This in short. And before finishing, I would like to say now, because I heard Milan speaking about how he has been interested to philosophy, I would like to say how I started being interested in philosophy at the age of 22, many, many years ago, of course. I had many questions. I was questioning myself. why is human being? Why must human beings and all beings die? Why we see around us people who are not good people? They harm others. They are indifferent. They do not hesitate to make anything. What they want is to safeguard their interest and to increase their what they have. And why good people have to suffer? The response came to me many, many years later when I started being a student in a philosophical school, not a university, philosophical school, a philosophical school in the real sense of the word. And there I learned about metempsychosis, reincarnation, and karma. This gave answers to my questions, and this is how I became more and more attracted by philosophy. Thank you, Vikram.
But Catherine, what was the reason that you started questioning all that at that age, that you thought about all these things? What was, did something happen? I mean, what took you towards that direction of trying to find answers?
Why? What was the reason?
Yeah.
As when I was a child, I had some thoughts, some questions, not as clear as what I said, but later on I met a gentleman who had studied very much philosophy and who influenced me. And thus I followed his school or college, and it was very important for me because, as a matter of fact, there I learned first about reincarnation. Karma came later.
But what about Patanjali? You were also studying something on Patanjali also?
Pardon?
On Patanjali? Patanjali's philosophy?
Yeah. The Sutras of Patanjali. I'm studying his book, a book written on the Sutras of Patanjali in the frame of the lessons of Karma Yoga.
So you want to take us through some of that, what you have picked up till now?
I can't hear you very well, Vikram. Excuse me.
Can you take us through a little bit of what you have picked up from the Patanjali Sutras?
Now?
Little bit, yeah, why not?
No, I would not like now.
Okay.
Another time possible, because I'm still scratching to be sure that I have understood correctly.
These are things I think every time you will read them, something new will come out of it, because the thought process at that moment, what it is processing is going to be different. So I think that's a learning process which will continue. But after picking up all these philosophies of everywhere, and of course Bushmen and Hobonobo, whatever that, how do you look at mediation going forward in the world? Greece, yes, in the world. Where have we, of course, gone wrong? I have some thoughts which I put out, but where do you think, how do we need to take mediation through? And let's keep aside what is happening. Think that is nothing. We have to take it forward. How would you do it?
What to do to push it forward?
In what way should it go forward? Because there is one way which has been used all around the world in terms of the box of mediation, about the court system, all that is being used on the one end. Let's forget that there is something like that. Today, if you wanted to, because certain things you have picked up from places, you've talked about the people who have, say, the elderly who were doing it, people with social standing who were there. So those were in Crete also, that was the situation. The people with the high social standing were the ones who were the mediators, as what I was told in that session. But how do you want to take this forward? How do we need to take it forward so it's acceptable to people, they connect with it? How will you do that?
To my opinion, we should educate people.
Mhm.
Educate people in the philosophical rules. And full stop, nothing more. Because if they are educated in the philosophical rules, and by these terms, I mean also karma, I strongly believe that it will be almost automatic for them to turn to mediation and not to go to court.
Absolutely.
Where, believe me, I have been requested, I have been told, I'm not satisfied only if you win the case for me. I want you to kill him.
Yeah.
So,
but what I'll do is I showed you what I'd written about the World Mediation Circle, why I'm doing it. So I want you to add something to it. What do I need to add here? I said moral values, not value, principles, and ethics-based humanistic approach to dispute resolution, where heart, soul, spirituality play an important role. What else would you like me to add here?
I would like that we include the term educate.
So you want to educate on certain philosophies. So we need to maybe get into some specifics there. And because a little broad way, we'll have to mention something. Because the idea being that let's put something out where it goes down such a basic aspect of what people understand, what they connect with. And I think that, like you said, if they connect to that part, definitely a lot of things get resolved in any case. But to bring them to that kind of a thought process. So one, are we actually, I mean, is it now a spiritual journey? One is spiritual development of society and communities, and then you look at dispute resolution from there. Or the other thing is that the dispute resolution process leads to a spiritual development. How it's going to work with each other, we'll have to, I think of that. Because yeah, please. You're saying something.
Can I see again
Yep.
what you have written? Vikram, what do you mean by a moral values, not value?
Well, actually, what is happening is today mediation, of course, in general, any of these, say, commercial matters, transactions, it's about, of course, the value that is at stake.
The added value. We used to say, yes.
And the values that you have, or the moral values, those have taken a backseat. You're actually negotiating. If everything is spoken about negotiating on that particular, that's the value of the amount, whatever the dispute is. So I'm saying we have to move away from that, which is again, what is it? It's just a very basic connection between human beings, which should be there. You're connecting to a human level rather than through that transactional process. So instead of transactional, you're looking at the relationship aspect of it. So, and I think everyone really at some stage actually wants to connect at that level. Of course, whatever comes around it, for whatever reason, they've created those layers. deep inside, it's all there. So you just have to, that's where that whole symposium on heart, soul, spirituality, that was the whole idea, to get to that there is a basic connection where the mediator comes in, has a role to play in that. Whatever you call it, the energy that the person brings in, the aura, the heart, soul, spirituality. Again, I keep repeating these words, but what that mediator brings in is important to that entire process, which I think in the, let's call it the modern way of promoting mediation, these things were left out, which I think were part of the process as it developed over time. But at some point, it was cut off, thinking that everything has to be created as a system, as a structured thing, a box. This is what you have to do. These are the steps. These are the stages. You can't human interaction. You can't put into these kinds of boxes and steps and all those things. It's very nice to create education around everything, but certain things you can't. And which I keep comparing the analogy of the mother. Now, tomorrow you'll start looking at motherhood in the same way. You'll be certifying mothers. It's a very personal thing. The child-mother relationship is so personal. It's such a different connection. To say that we will tell you how to do that, I think then we will go into another kind of a whole system where someone decides how a person should be brought up. Same thing with disputes. Someone is going to tell you how to handle this particular thing. I know already. I can tell you these steps. Does that work that way? I don't think so. I think it's such a organic kind of a thing. It's developing as it goes along. So I have a little difference in the way mediation has been promoted for years. And this is what I really want to change.
I fully agree with you, because the persons participating to the mediation process are different. The characters are different. The dispute itself is different. If you have a commercial dispute, the feelings are not so important as they are in a family dispute. But the rules of the mediator should be the same, not the practical way of handling the matter.
And I'm telling you, you'll be very surprised that even in, like I said, high value commercial matters also, that human touch actually clicks somewhere. I put a video out of one particular person. I did a session because he was one of the, let's call it parties today. I don't say parties, I say participants, but one of the people in that mediation. And of course, it got resolved, and you could never think it could get resolved. But he said, Vikram, you brought in the human touch. In a high value commercial, someone talking about human touch, this is what I want people to do. It is there, it's available even in high value commercial. For some reason, some people somewhere decided, no, this has to be some clinical process. And of course, because it came through the court system, that the atmosphere, the methodology in some way came from there. I'm saying we just at some point have to cut off from that. Okay, whatever's happened has happened. Now let's look at developing it as a people's process, connecting people together, the human touch, whatever words which I have put down there also. Let's add more words to it. I mean, there's no limitation. It's a work in progress. But let's give a package to people which they can connect with. Let's not tell them that we are bringing some rocket science to you and we know what to do. You don't know what needs to be done. And we are coming from some, whatever, call it some certifications and all that direction. No, don't do that, because I'm telling you, they will never connect with it. And if they don't connect with it, it's not going to become popular. And we'll keep in the next 10 years also, we'll be saying the same thing, that within the mediation world, we'll have our discussions, but the user will be left out of it. So let's connect them to what they can connect with, which is the idea. We keep discussing this aspect. So I think that's where we need to move.
Your idea to form the circle of mediation is excellent. This is not a compliment. I do not make compliments. Possibly you have understood this. So I say what I feel. It is very important, and I would like to suggest to you, if you agree, I have declared my participation, correct?
Yeah.
You have
Yes.
received it. Yes, thank you. I suggest that we make an advertisement about this.
Yeah.
If you give me a text, because you are competent to word the text, you give me the text in English, I translate it in Greek, and I post it everywhere.
Yeah. So basically, this is going to be a Greece mediation circle we'll create, and within that,
create.
Yeah, and in that circle there will be circles. So there will be what I'm doing right now. Like I said, every organization, I'm trying to create a circle in that organization. What is the idea behind it? I'm saying that the people out there, the people with the mediator mindset already exist. The peacemaker mindset exists. We just have to bring those people out within that circle. So it's something that they can connect with the people also, they connect with the process also. So it develops, and it's not something where people who want to take it as they say professional mediator, it will benefit everyone, because if that mindset is there and people connect to the process, they themselves will then, as they go along, want people who might be doing it on a, like, let's call it professional way, because I don't like to use that professional. It's a way of life for me. It's not a it's not like a professional thing. But those people, they will find, they will identify, they will want, maybe there's some complex matters which they want someone else to come in with more experience, whatever it might be. But at least they will be looking at the process. Right now, it's no matter, in a way, imposed, forcing you to do something, and it's just not gelling with the way I want mediation to come. So let's start that process. I'll make a little communication and I'll send it to you. Let's get people in.
Okay.
Let's get good people into it, and let's start doing some
Okay.
at the grassroots level. So Parvati, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I'm really sorry we had to do it in 2 parts. It is actually something, that schedule that I made out, I was actually wanting to keep these 30-minute slots this time, because I really felt a lot of Greek mediators will come in. So I'd made a lot of slots. But of course, they did not. You don't know how many slots I've cut out. I cut out days also, because I had thought that we'll have a large number, and definitely, of course, we have a certain limited number of days. So let's do 30-minute slots. That's why the schedule was made in that way. But normally I keep 1 hour. All my symposia I keep 1 hour only. I keep 1 hour sessions. But I did look. I thought that there will be lots of Greek mediators.
Unfortunately, they are few.
Doesn't matter. Let's see. It's a good thing. At least we started the process. Next one we do, we'll get more.
Indeed. Yeah. Indeed. This afternoon, before we started, I received a message from a lady, mediator, who said that I would like to speak. Perfect. I told her, send please an email to Mediator Vikram.
Yep. Let's get people. I think once the symposium has started, I think people would hear the session or whatever, and then they'll get interested. So it does happen that way. Not a problem. We have time. We have next week. Yes. We have next week. Not a problem at all.
And till the end of the month,
Nothing is actually, we only have next week, because my daughter is leaving the country on the 30th. So I need to spend time with her. So that is why I've kept that week only 1 day in that week, because she's leaving on the 30th. So I only kept that last day, because she's leaving early morning. The sessions are in the evening. So in the afternoon, so that is why I'm not keeping anything between that. 25th is the last thing on next week. After that, only 30th. In the middle, I haven't kept any session.
Children go first.
Yes. So thank you very much. And
thank you.
Please join other sessions. You've got the schedule. Just
yes, I'll do.
Please
definitely.
Join. All right.
Of course.
See you. Bye.
Bye. Good night then.
Good night.
Now it's good night